Yes?
Your marry pick.
Uh-huh.
Do you also have sex with the person you marry?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you get to, like, also live together.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely the companionship.
Yeah.
Well, the way I play it is, like, the marriage is, like, strictly, like, a marriage of convenience. Like, this is, like, strictly for companionship. And then the fuck is, like, yeah, you fuck them and then you never see them again.
Never again, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I was just curious.
Because I imagine...
people are torn on that sometimes.
I didn't realize that, you had to establish rules in that game.
I'm sure sex is on the table even in my version, but, primarily...
Because there are definitely people that I want to have sex with and then never talk to again. I would imagine.
Jay Statham being on that list?
Yeah.
Or that's too obvious.
Tell no
Jason
one.
S.
Tell no one this happened. What if you had to play Fuck, Marry, Kill with the three main characters of the movie we have for today?
Actually, you just spoiler alerted.
No! Well, we'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
So what have you watched this week? Outside the challenge.
Oh, I finally got around to watching Anomalisa.
Oh, okay.
Which was a really big disappointment.
Okay.
I was just bummed. I think I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
Because I love Charlie Kaufman. I really do.
Yeah.
But it just felt like half-baked.
Sure.
And kind of even like... I don't know, almost trite in a way.
Oh, okay.
Like, I just did not care for it.
We talked about your interest in it. I don't know if it made it onto any of the podcasts, but, like, while we were sitting on the couch, we did talk about it once. And, like, I mentioned that it was supposed to be a radio play.
That's right.
Because I watched it, and I was also really disappointed.
And I thought of that while watching, and I had headphones on.
Okay.
And the sound design is really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see maybe how it would be a radio play.
Yeah.
Although Tom Noonan, is that his name? He's the one who does all the... that his voice would be confusing, I think, if he's being the same voice for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you'd write that. You'd have to be like, hello, I'm the bellhop now. Or like, I don't know how you'd make that clear in a radio play. But, And I imagine they had to use... puppets or stop motion because of the sex scene.
Yeah.
Because you really couldn't get away with an R rating if those were people in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
And they made it, it was really weird having headphones on during that, because it was just like, I'm right there in the action, and I felt really comfortable with it.
Just immersed in a scene that you didn't want to be immersed in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love Charlie Kaufman. This one just really disappointed.
Yeah, it's like one of the reasons that, I think people in general like Charlie Kaufman is that, like, his ideas seem to, like, have no sense of gravity. Like, they'll just take off in a direction, and there's just no stopping until the story's over. Yeah. Like, they don't necessarily seem grounded by earthly rules. Like, even, like, his movies will start out seemingly normal and, like, kind of just slowly break their own rules as the movie goes. Yeah. And, like, this never had that. Yeah. Like, there was just none of that happening.
And even the, like, big speech moment when it's, like, when you should be feeling something for this character, when he's giving a speech at the convention, felt like a rehash of Schenectady, New York. It felt like the same... He came to the same conclusion. Okay. And it was just like, I've heard this, you know? Yeah. I don't know. And then that's what made it feel trite kind of to me. It was sort of like, you've already said this. I don't know. I mean, and that's hard too. Like when you set when somebody has made such great stuff, you have high expectations, and it's easier to disappoint. But
no, I'm with you. It
could have been better.
Just sort of deflated by the whole experience.
Yeah, but yeah, that's about all I've gotten around to. How about you?
I watched not one, but 2 movies that might make it onto a future podcast.
Oh, wow. That's a real lucrative weekend.
One is a film called The Guardian, It's a William Friedkin film from the 80s, which was not a high point creatively for William Friedkin.
Okay.
And it's him sort of making a modern Grimm's fairy tale.
Okay.
Like, it takes place like in modern days, but like has a lot of the elements of like old fairy tale folklore.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, the movie, like, the acting is just the worst. And Friedkin said, like, once that he only likes to do, like, one take per scene.
Okay.
Like, he's not one of those, like, we're going to do 50 takes until it's perfect. He's like, everyone's just all amped up for the first scene, and that's always the one that I always went with anyway, so now I just don't do it. I'm going to get shows here. Like, it's like, people are like, do I have this line down right? And I can't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like he must not like storyboards either. Because this really just kind of, like, it would just jump ahead. I'm like, I don't know if they really thought the narrative should do this. But even in his darkest days, William Friedkin can direct the hell out of an action scene. Like, there's a bike crash that, like, made me gasp. And there is a arboreal violence, like, action scene that is so good.
All right.
Just amazing. There's a couple arboreal related violent acts in this that are pretty amazing.
Okay.
The other one that I watched was called Band of the Hand.
Okay. I haven't heard of this either.
It's from the mid 80s. It was produced by Michael Mann around the same time he was producing Miami Vice.
Okay.
And it's just like about a group of teenagers who've committed crimes so heinous that they were tried as adults, and they somehow break out of jail together, and this Native American Vietnam vet like retrains them Rambo style.
Oh my gosh.
And then they like wreak havoc on like the drug dealing crony capitalists like warlord in their hometown.
Yeah, sounds solid.
Yeah, it was real solid. It was real solid. Yeah, so I saw both those like on Saturday, and I was like, Jesus.
Wow, and is that from the 80s?
Yeah, like, I'm going to say, like, I don't remember the year right off the bat, but I'm going to say, like, 86, so prime 80s culture years.
I did a lot of thinking about the 80s recently, film-wise, and just how, man, it was not a great decade for film.
I mean, really for art.
Yeah.
It wasn't...
You got a few outliers, but for the most part, it would just...
Yeah, it's like, when you think of, like, music from the 80s, like, you have the whole, like, hair metal scene.
Yeah.
Which really, even, like, when I, like, try and keep, like, a wide net for this type of music and, like, try and find something to appreciate in, like, all genres, like, that's one where, like, I have a lot of trouble defending or finding something worthwhile in there.
I like some Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
I have a thing, though. What's his name? Who's the lead singer? Dee Snider. Filmed a horror movie in Colorado Springs, where I grew up, called Strangeland.
Oh.
And he actually plays the villain, I think.
Okay.
But, yeah, it was just fun. I mean, we all knew it was happening when he was filming it, too, because he did it in the 90s, and we're like, oh, shit, that's awesome. And then watching it is kind of fun, because there's, like, scenes, you're like, oh, man, that's downtown. And like, you know.
It's like when I watch Battle in Seattle, and there's like a couple exterior shots at the beginning that are Seattle, and then the rest of them, I'm like, this isn't my city.
Yeah, I think it must be really expensive to film here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if you have something set in the Pacific Northwest, I feel like they film some establishing shots here, pay the taxes on that, and then everything else is in Vancouver.
Yeah, definitely.
I noticed that in 50/50.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's like... because it's supposed to take place in Seattle.
Yeah.
But there's a scene near the beginning of the movie where Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Jagor, as I like to call him, is crossing the street, and you can definitely tell that the walk sign is not an American walk sign.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's the weird alien-looking, more organic-looking creature. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
But I can imagine.
Yeah, it's Canadian for sure.
Sure. So, do you want to introduce this movie, or...?
Yeah, I'm ready to jump in.
All right, let's...
Well, this week I chose...
Should we introduce ourselves?
Oh, shit. We didn't do that.
No.
Well, this is X-rated.
I hope that you can move a segment of audio. So we're X-rated.
Yeah.
I'm Matt Fisher.
I'm Ryan Whedon, and we talk about movies.
We dated very briefly a long, long time ago. And
those halcyon days.
Fate brought us back together.
Here we are, yakking your ear off. Your ear, not your year. Hello.
So the movie today.
Yeah. I don't have a good segue there. Broadcast news.
Yes.
87. Shit. 6 or 7. I think it's 7. James L. Brooks.
I have a laptop at my feet, but I will not touch it.
I brought my iPad. I don't think it's even turned on. James L. Brooks, famous. He directed and wrote this. Famous producer, writer, director. He's
mostly known for television. Yeah.
Has fingers in everything.
Yeah, like he came to prominence in the 70s because he directed like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, a couple other things.
Wrote a couple episodes of it too.
Okay. Directed or produced The Simpsons. That's definitely the big one.
Yeah.
This was a Gracie film production, which I know that like does The Simpsons and did The Critic.
That was his production company.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also was.
I think Cheers was his as well.
I don't know about that one.
Okay,
but. It's appropriate that he did The Critic now that I think about it, because we're basically being critics here, kind of. He also did a movie, or a show in the late 70s, or early 70s, I can't remember now, called Room 222, which was like a good example of the comedy drama.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of a like, what is it, like a proto-comedy drama, one of the first to really get their teeth into it, at least according to Wikipedia. Okay. And I feel like that's him in a nutshell, in a way. He's really solid at dramedy. Yeah, you know, and this movie is a great example of that, I feel. It really just keeps walking that line.
I feel like this movie is probably one of Aaron Sorkin's favorites.
Oh, okay.
And Aaron Sorkin's degree is in musical theater, and he says that there's only, like, when you learn to write in, like, for, like, stage, like, in that community, he says there's only 2 genres, musical and non-musical.
Oh, wow.
So, like, comedy and drama don't have this, like, hard line between them, that it's, like, you frequently, mix and match and, like, make them one, you know, homogenous unit.
Yeah, and if you can play them off of each other, they, like, amplify each other.
Yeah. And, like, this did it really well, because it's, like, you know, whenever Holly Hunter, in her breakout role, whenever she would cry, it's sort of funny.
Yeah. He does it while the credits are still showing at the very beginning. Like, her first big cry is in the first 3 minutes of the movie or whatever, you know, when she's an adult.
Yeah, well, I think it's like the credits have, like, just ended, or maybe they pause, because I don't think they're, like, the movie's kind of rushing it, or it's not rushing, but it's at a brisk pace, and then it's like she hangs up the phone and unplugs it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good cry.
And yeah, she sits there, and there's like 45 seconds where it's like camera doesn't move, she's just sitting there, and I feel like there's no like credits rolling over this scene.
Right.
So I think it was like right as like the last credit ran, they're like,
yeah. I remember the first time I've actually, I should say I've seen this movie several times now, but like, I remember seeing it the first time and thinking like, what's going on? It's weird.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, this is sort of different in our movies so far, in that this is one that we both mutually love quite a bit. Mm-hmm. In fact, I took too much notes. I actually just stopped taking notes after a while. I'm like, I'll figure something to talk about. Like, there's just too much to talk about with this movie. So in the opening sequence, we're introduced to the 3 main characters as children. Like, they live their own, like, different lives.
A little prologue of sorts.
Yeah, like, introducing us to, like, what their main struggles are going to be. Like, their strengths and their weaknesses, really. Mm-hmm. You know, you have William Hurt as a kid, and it's like, he's a cute little kid, but he's, you know, he's just dumb. Not smart. despite, like, trying, but, yeah, he's just not smart. And you got Albert Brooks, who's, you know, smart to a fault and like can't help himself
and craves approval.
Yeah,
in a way.
I'll say
recognition.
Recognition.
That's a better word. Yeah,
definitely. And then Holly Hunter is, obsessively explaining why she's not an obsessive.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the captions, as they say, like future news reporter, future television producer, like they didn't come in at the same time in each sequence.
That's right. Yeah.
Each one was like timed, I thought, like for hilarity. Like each one came in at like a comic moment, not for what's the word? Not like balance or symmetry.
Right.
Like they weren't timed to be like symmetrical in each, like where they appear at the very beginning, at the very end. It was like, when will this caption be funniest? That's where we're putting that.
They probably tried a few times to see. Yeah. And it's a great start because you already, like, once you see them as adults, you already have an idea. Like, they're really able to encapsulate who these characters are in those, like, 1-2 minute, scenes for them. And it's like, and then it's exciting because it's then, the rest of the movie is basically like, let's throw those three personalities in a mixing bowl and see what happens, Yes. And I love that about this movie.
And it really, it's sort of weird watching this because, like, I think you and I both kind of grew up in a time where, oh my God, parents still kind of grew up where you watched the evening news.
Yeah, definitely.
And, like, I don't know anyone who watches the evening news anymore.
I mean, my parents, but they're...
Yeah. My parents probably too, but, like, it sort of is, like, a snapshot in a day where, like, the news, like, unless you worked in the industry, the news ended at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Like, there was no more news in the day after 6.
You might have local news, but they're either going to cover something local or the stuff that's already been covered in world news. So
there might be, like, the late news or something like that. But, yeah, really, like, the big news anchors, like, reported at, like, 6.
Totally, yeah.
And it's also, like, back when maintaining, like, trust and objectivity in news was, like, paramount to everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, there's even that scene where, like, when William Hurt is sort of, like, flying by the seat of his pants on his, like, his first anchoring gig, and he has to, like, improvise for a couple seconds, and he says, so I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the producer's like, who cares what you think?
Yeah. That's not why we're tuning in.
Yeah.
Or why people watch the news. And I think that's, and I hate to, like, say that this movie has legs or is like I'm viewing it with a different lens these days. Yeah. But it definitely, like, that scene at the beginning when she's at when she's giving her speech at the convention and starts comparing how, like, we have to keep the integrity of news and reporting because, like, that's all there is with news. News is nothing without its integrity, is basically her point. And it's like
everyone's walking out as she's...
Yeah, and it just bums me out because with everything that's happened in the past few months, with fake news coming and turning into a thing, it's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
And it's true, there was, like, I still think that this is happening today, and this is something that just kind of bothered me as I was watching it this time. It's like, there are people who dedicate their life to doing this junk, like really trying to find the truth, and telling people about it, like, that's one of our foundational principles as a country. Yeah. And so it was, like, just hard to see something written in the mid-'80s already seeing that coming down the pipe.
And the way that they repeatedly talk about how, like, the star of, the 6 o'clock news is the news. It's not the anchor necessarily.
Right.
And, I think about, there are, anchors out there, like Rachel Maddow's very smart. Like, I'm not saying that she's not. But she definitely kind of makes it about her. Like, she's not a journalist. She's, like, an op-ed.
She's a personality. Yeah. As well as, John Oliver's another great example of that, too.
Yeah, like, these aren't, like, necessarily, like, news anchors. These are definitely, like, opinions, which is fine. But, like, with John Oliver, it doesn't bother me so much because it's, like, very clearly, like, comedy about current events. Yeah. Where, like, with Rachel Maddow, it's, like, she has, like, a news program.
I guess she's on MSNBC, too.
Yeah. Or the entirety of Fox News.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, I can't believe we have to fight this. Or, like, anybody who's trying to be a journalist with integrity would have to battle with people who aren't, it was just really sad. Like when she was showing that scene, or when she was giving that speech in the beginning, and she was showing the scene, the domino one, and everyone's like, "Yay!"
That was 80s clickbait.
Yeah, I cried. I was like really emotional about it.
You cried. I was only like 5 times into the movie.
Well, see, that's one of the reasons I want to watch this movie. It has some real built-in cry moments for me. I mean, one of which is a pretty famous scene, and it's a minute long, which is when there's a event that happens in the Middle East where a Libyan plane bombs something,
like Italian embassy or something like that.
Yeah, American blah blah. So they have to do a report, like we have to go live, right? And the main producer guy picks the up-and-comer William Hurt's character, whose name is Tom, to be the anchor instead of Albert Brooks's character. His name is Aaron. And Holly Hunter has a fit. Yeah. And so she takes him outside. She's like, I need to talk to you. She's like, I don't think that he's the right guy for you. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I disagree with you. And she's like, no, you have to do this. And he's like, well, it must be nice to always be right. And she says, no, it's awful.
Yeah, her delivery on that, like, where it's like the breath is like just kind of like deflating out of her. Like, no, it's awful.
It must be nice to always believe you know better. To always think you're the smartest person in the room.
No, it's awful.
I paused the movie today when I was watching it and had my boohoo, and then I was like, I'm gonna think about this a little bit, because like, why is that so affecting? And it's I think part of it is because she has a case, like she's speaking from a voice of integrity and an experience, and to have it be like thrown back at her is like, oh, you're such a smarty pants, aren't you? It's like, that's not even the point, you know? Like,
he doesn't have a counter argument. He's just like, that's what you think.
Yeah.
Like, he totally just like talks down to her because he doesn't have like a reasonable conversation. He's just like, nope, you're wrong.
Yeah. And he's like insulting her, or in a way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's belittling like her very, like, it's an opinion, but it's like a very educated, like, she didn't like, you know, just make up this opinion or is doing it for ratings or because, you know, he's a nice guy. She's doing it because he thinks that he's the best for the job.
Yeah.
She's being, you know, meritocratic about it. He's just like, no, we want this guy that looks like an anchor to do it.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know. And it's also, it is frustrating to sometimes feel like you're the smartest person in the room and no one's listening to you. I'm not going to say I felt that. Yes, I will. But, fuck. And it feels terrible. It's not a good feeling. Like, if you do step into a room and I'm like, I'm the smartest person here and that's awesome, then you need to question your life a little bit.
There's the scene where it's like Tom and, what's Holly Hunter's character's name?
Jane.
Tom and Jane, like, they go back to Holly Hunter's apartment and she's like trying to like, or no, maybe it wasn't even an apartment. Maybe it was
a hotel room.
Yeah. And she's trying to be like flirty and fun, and it's not working for her. She just does not know how to like seal the deal. Which at the same time, I'm like, I think I flirt like Holly Hunter.
She says, "I'm beginning to repel people I'm trying to seduce."
Which is, that is a great line.
I felt that way.
But Tom is like asking, he's like, I don't understand the news that I'm reading.
Yeah.
And she kind of like blows up at him. She's like, and she goes, what do you want? Like permission to be fake?
Yeah.
And I love that line. Like, I feel like, and I'm just as guilty. Like, I'll go up to smarter people and be like, oh, I messed up. And I just want them to say that's okay.
Yeah.
And like the way that she was like, no, that's not okay. Get better.
Yeah.
Like, and then he like leaves.
Yeah. And he says, I hated the way you talked to me just now, and not just because you were right. That's the thing. I mean, these are the three main characters. We haven't even talked about Albert Brooks' character yet, really, but they're really well-rounded, I would say. Like, right off the bat, too, you know? They don't feel two-dimensional at all.
No.
They don't, but the weird thing is that they don't really change that much either throughout the film.
No, I mean, in the last scene when Holly Hunter's getting in the cab, it's like, you know, throughout the movie there's this running gag, I guess.
Yeah.
She'll get in a cab and give the cab driver very explicit, specific directions.
Yeah.
And at the end, when she's like all heartbroken, she hops in the cab and she goes, going to DuPont Circle, and then she sighs and goes, go whichever way you want. And then she sighs again and goes, but Washington Boulevard's quicker.
Yeah. Built-in crime moment number 2. Right there. And, yeah, because they don't change. That's the thing. It's like, it's these 3 strong personalities, and they stay that way. But we just, like, the joy of this movie comes from seeing them interact and try to change and try to come together in,
I would say that
ways.
Albert Brooks' character tried to, like, make the biggest leap.
Right.
Like, when he got, like, the weekend anchoring position, and it was going to be, like, his, like, oh my god, I can, like, stay in the industry, and, like, I can't even think of more things that could have gone wrong for him. Like, I suppose he could have burst into flames, but...
I forgot about this line. It was at the very end of that whole sequence, and he's talking about some explosion or something that happens in some country, and he goes, and 22 people are dead. And then they cut to commercial, and he goes, I wish I were one of them.
120 people were reported injured, at least 22 people dead. Commercial? I wish I were one of them.
Yeah, all the producers are like, oh man, Nixon never swept this much.
Yeah.
And like, realistically, like, he's only, like, reading the news for, like, 5 minutes.
At a time, and then they cut to the reporter.
Yeah. And it's just, everything goes wrong for that poor guy.
No. He's just not meant for that role, He's like...
Yeah.
He wants... It's funny, like, I was trying to, like, make a sort of a diagram of everybody's kind of motivations a little bit, and with him it was like, he wants to always have truth and quality, but he wants recognition, and, like, there's an ego element to him that Holly Hunter doesn't necessarily have.
Yeah.
Because Jane wants, like, pure truth and quality for quality's sake, but she's okay with just being in the background and letting that happen.
And so in the very beginning, and I want to talk about Jack Nicholson's role in this too.
Oh, yeah. Uncredited, which is fun.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. In the beginning, it's like they rush to get that, like, segment about, like, the returning vet home.
Right.
And Jack Nicholson's the big New York anchor. And he smiles and he likes it, and everyone's like, oh, he was really pleased with that segment.
Smiled.
Yeah, and, like, he calls, they're in the Washington office. He calls the Washington office, and she's really eager to, like, share the credits.
Yeah.
Like, she's getting all the praise, and she's like, oh, well, Aaron, he was up in front of the camera. He was doing most of it, and he's just like, well, later, and hangs up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like, Aaron won that, like, little piece of recognition, and Holly Hunter didn't. She appreciated it, but she wasn't striving for that.
Well, she's like to say, well, Aaron was there. He was doing he deserves to hear this too.
Yeah.
And he just says, well, you're always trying to give off the credit.
Yeah.
And then she has one of those break moments almost again, and she says, no, I'm not trying to give it away. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like not being taken seriously a little bit,
Yeah.
But I love that because, and right after that, she hangs up, and then she lies and says, oh, he has to read over some coffee. And then we see him on the video screen just like looking around.
Do.
And then that follows right up with him leaning into her and saying, please say something.
Yeah.
Please laugh as soon as I walk away so that people don't think that I'm dying inside. And then she laughs, and, Joan Cusack's like, what'd he say? And she's like,
I'll never tell.
And I think that was a theme I noticed in this movie that I haven't noticed before, is that there's a lot of times where, for people who are so interested in the truth, mm-hmm. they do sometimes lie to each other to save feelings. I just loved how it's really ambiguous, this movie. Like, nobody's really a main character. It feels like there's 3 main characters in my book. And if you wanted to make the biggest argument for a main character, you'd probably do Holly Hunter, I suppose, just because she's kind of in the middle of this quote-unquote love triangle.
But she's last credited of the 3, like...
Yeah, well, she was new. Apparently
Yeah.
Before this, the only other thing she'd done was Raising Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, here's fun facts. Fun fact corner. She lived with Frances McDormand in the early 80s in New York.
Really?
Yeah, and that's why she has a voice cameo in Blood Simple. She does a voice message on a message machine. And then they did Raising Arizona, and then the rest is history.
I'm probably going to be proven wrong, but if I remember correctly, she has a scene in the movie The Burning, which was...
Wait, is it a horror movie?
Yeah.
Yes, I mentioned that too, I just didn't write that one down.
I don't think she has a speaking part in it.
Okay.
Like, I think she's, like, uncredited extra. But it's, like, you can tell it's her. Like, she did, like, from, like, 81 to 87, like, she didn't age a day.
Yeah.
But it's, like, that movie also has Jason Alexander in it.
Wow.
He shows his butt.
Oh, no!
Which, really, like, that's the most memorable part of that movie.
In a good way?
No.
Okay. That's kind of what I imagined.
And Fisher Stevens is in that movie, whose name you won't recognize, but if you look up his picture, you'll be like, I know that guy.
Oh, okay. One of those. Yeah. Classic that guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Holly Hunter, like, she's in, like, the corner of the frame in, like, 3 scenes.
Good to know.
So, have you seen the alternate ending to this movie?
No.
So, I guess after the movie was released, because the movie ends on sort of an ambiguous note, people were clamoring for, like, a little bit of closure.
Okay.
So they filmed an alternate ending.
Oh.
Or maybe it was test audiences that, than what is in the movie
with
itself.
Like, so wait, the ending, the epilogue ending where Tom's like the main anchor and everything, that was too ambiguous for people?
Well, I guess the test audiences wanted Holly Hunter, Jane, to end up with one of the guys.
Sorry, that is really frustrating to me.
So they did film an alternate ending where Holly Hunter is in the cab leaving the airport, and as it's driving away, Tom jumps back in.
No. Really?
Yeah. And they have a big fight in the back of the cab.
Okay. So they don't end up together.
It's still ambiguous. Like, they don't say... It's not like he jumps in and be like, will you marry me?
Yeah.
It's like...
Yes!
But I watched it last night, and it came with commentary from James L. Brooks, and he said that he hadn't watched it since it was, like, on the dailies of, like, the actual production, so it'd been 30 years since he had seen the scene. So, like, he introduced, he's like, I'm going to watch it right now, and then when it's done, I'm going to, like, tell you what I think. And he said he mentioned things that, like, I don't think I would have been able to tell. He's like, well, like, the performances were just so good, like, all around in this movie, and, like, they really brought it for this, like, extra scene. He's like, but, like, they also improvised a lot in this scene.
Oh.
Like, there was a lot of stuff, because he shot the film in sequence.
Really?
With the intention of deciding, like, which guy she ends up with at the end of the movie. Like, once the characters had been established and, like, the actors had sort of worked in, like, their own, like, personality into it. And, like, yeah, his idea was that he was going to make that decision at the end of filming.
Oh, wow.
But when he actually did, he still couldn't decide, which is why he ended it the way that he did. But yeah, I guess test audiences were like, we want her to get with one of them. So he did film, like, an alternate scene, and it's pretty good.
Oh, really?
Okay,
well,
like,
that makes me feel better.
It's not like the word. It's not like it wraps everything up in, like, a nice little bow. Yeah, in some ways it's a little more satisfying than the real ending, but I think I still like the real ending more.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like it's a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, and it's a heartbreaking note to end the, like, present day part of the film, you know? Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit for a minute, if we can, about the 2 versions of this that you have and their descriptions.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched the trailer for this after watching the movie, and they had no idea how to market this. I mean, it was like, it's a love triangle, kind of. Like, there aren't enough scenes of, like, I love you, kiss me. I love you, kiss me. You know, to, like, make the trailer work. The trailer's terrible, honestly. If I had seen the trailer, I would say this movie looks terrible.
So one, you have, like, the IMDb description. Take 2 rival TV reporters, one handsome, one talented, both male. Add 1 producer, female. mix well and watch the sparks fly.
God.
Like, it's just... Oh, that's so awful.
It doesn't do any justice to the film.
It sounds just like the worst, like, ripped out of the playbooks of the worst Hollywood hacks. Meanwhile, you have, like, Criterion, who, let's see... This caustic look inside the Washington news media stars Holly Hunter in her breakout role as a feisty television producer torn between an ambitious yet dim anchorman, William Hurt, and her closest confidant, a cynical veteran reporter, Albert Brooks. Brooks's witty, gently prophetic film is a captivating transmission from an era in which ideas on relationships and media were rapidly changing. Like,
that's more accurate. Yeah, there we go.
That's what the movie is actually about.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, it's
frustrating too because it's like it's assumed if you have 3 leads, one's a woman with 2 men, that she has to decide. You know, like I hate that that's the paradigm here. You know, and I mean, really, because like she doesn't really have to decide. Like, she makes up her mind, like, pretty early on, like, you know, and even
Aaron's
then it's like
not her guy.
Yeah, and even then it's just sort of like she doesn't even like him that much. She's like, she's turned on by him, but she's more turned on by her job, you know?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
That's the thing, is like all 3 of these people aren't really in like romantic situations, you know? Like they're more interested in their careers, and they have a passion for news, not really for each other.
Yeah.
So like saying the sparks fly is just there are no sparks.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, romance and there is comedy to it, but like to just pin it down as like this is like a workplace farce, like,
or a romantic comedy.
Yeah, like really kind of like belittles what the film is.
Yeah.
But I did watch the trailer. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I thought it was going to be like, Holly Hunter hates her job.
And she blows some hair out of her face.
Yeah, like I thought it was going to be like one of those, and like but yeah, you're right. They didn't know how to market it. Like,
I mean, it's tough, but it's like if you just market it as the ambiguous story of 3 passionate people getting together who work in a newsroom, then it's like,
I don't know if I see that trailer. But...
Maybe I need to make this trailer for the movie. For the movie, a trailer I feel really fits this movie.
Yeah, because like the movie doesn't feel like it would be a hard sell. I don't feel like you'd have to like shove people into the theater or like force them in. Like I feel like if people see some of the good parts, like they're gonna be interested in the rest of the movie. But at the same time, I can kind of see how like coming up with like a trailer that really kind of captures the feel of it might be a little difficult.
Mm-hmm. But I would just do like show part of the scene of her as a kid, and then show like cut to her as an adult, or maybe like do the voiceover of her as a kid and then show her as an adult, and then do it for all 3, and then I don't know, find one scene that crystallizes the 3 of them interacting, throw that on, and then be like, broadcast news in theaters this whatever.
You should be an editor.
Thank you.
So I noticed that if I was paying attention correctly, Tom, William Hurt, and Aaron, Albert Brooks, they shared screen time, but they weren't alone on the screen together until over an hour into the movie. Yeah. Like, it wasn't until Aaron was pressing him about, like, how many cabinet members there are and stuff like that. That was their first scene alone. Yeah. Which, you know, for a movie that has, you know, 3 starring roles, like, you'd think they would have been alone in a room. I mean, a little bit, like, as they're, like, walking through the halls and stuff like that, it might just be the 2 of them talking, but, like, that was the first time where, like, they didn't have to be, like, civil. Like, there wasn't people watching them. Right. Which, it's like Holly Hunter had plenty of time with both of them alone for, like, extended scenes.
Yeah, that's true.
But the 2 of them had, like, never been. But at the same time, like, then it, like, turns around and Tom is, like, helping Aaron, like, look more Anchorman-ish.
Indeed, yeah.
Like, 10 minutes later.
I read a thing that James L. Brooks was trying to kind of give them all equal weight, so that as a viewer, you could just kind of latch on to whoever you wanted to follow.
Sure.
And I think what I like about that technique is that I kind of latch on to all three of them. I see myself in all of those roles, in to less extent to some, more or less extent to others. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's just nice to be able to not have like, this is the person you need to follow, this is our hero, or whatever. Like it's just refreshing, Like I don't need all my movies to be this way.
Yeah.
But once in a while, I don't want to have to be told, here's the main character, and make sure you care about them because this is the person you should be following. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it kind of makes it so that you sympathize with who you want to sympathize with them.
Yeah.
Instead of just the movie being like, here's this person, sympathize with them. Like,
yeah.
It sort of like lets you make the decision for yourself.
It gives credit to the viewer.
Yeah.
Which is always nice because, I'm an intelligent human being. Sometimes I'm the smartest person in the room. So.
When it's just you and the dog and the cat.
When I'm all alone.
Wow, not even the dog and the cat.
God, but I wouldn't want to marry Jane either.
Yeah.
She seems like a real pill.
Yeah, she seems like she'd be a lot to handle.
I don't know.
See, I'd marry Tom. He seems like he's easy enough to get along with.
Okay.
And he's successful anchorman.
Yeah. Rolling in the dough. He says he's making tons of money. And that was at the beginning of the movie.
I mean, if you stuck with him, you'd be in D.C. to begin with, then you'd be in London, and then you'd be going back to New York.
Yeah.
So, I'll deal with that.
And he's not dumb. I mean, like, he's emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's charming. He just, can't remember facts.
Doesn't know how many cabinet members there are.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can talk about other things.
So I would marry Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, because the way that I play it, it's purely a marriage of convenience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there'd be no funny business. He'd have to get some mistress. I'd just be the well-kept man.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's always like, it's sort of shocking to me because like William Hurt was supposed to be this like, sort of like heartthrob, like adult contemporary heartthrob in the 80s. And like, I'm just blind to it.
I don't get it really either.
If no one told me that, I would have never figured it out for myself.
Well, it makes me wonder, maybe we should go back and check out some of his earlier stuff. Because, I've seen Altered States.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen, Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Which is actually like his gay movie.
Oh, well.
Like, he's like trapped in a jail cell with Raul Julia.
Oh, right.
Who's like really fey, and he doesn't respect that at all. And like, they kind of like grow to respect one another, and they have like respects? Like, respect sex?
That's a hashtag if I ever heard one.
Like, the movie's good, but yeah, like, once again, if someone hadn't told me that William Hurt is attractive, I never would have figured it out for myself.
Yeah, same here.
Not that he's, like, unattractive. I don't want to say that, like, he's, like, some, like, fugly, troglodyte.
You just wouldn't think of him as a sex symbol.
Is troglodyte a PC term?
I don't know. We're going to offend somebody. I mean, I'm sure if anybody's listening, we're going to have some offended people. But thankfully, it's mostly just close friends and family. Oh, we've had some feedback.
We had some positive feedback pertaining, one, to our amateur porn discussion. But two, gotten the most positive feedback from our discussion about redheads in Hollywood cinema.
Mm-hmm.
A redheaded friend of mine said that he was glad that people were finally broaching the subject in a mainstream.
We've been quiet all these years. No longer.
The silence ends today. And then another friend of mine pointed out that Eric Stoltz is a redhead of some leading man fame. He was in Mask.
Indeed.
But that he was originally supposed to be in Back to the Future, and they shot it for about a week or two and decided they did not like him and replaced him with a brunette. So
I can see them watching the dailies and be like, there's just something about him I don't like. I can't put my finger on it. Let's go with Michael J. Fox. Yeah, I mean, it's there. It's there. You just have to look for it.
Yeah.
I thought of one, actually, another one. Is most recently, The Force Awakens. Our basically Hitler leader, played by the gentleman who's in Ex Machina and a bunch of other films. Like
his name's something funny. It's like Dom Hall or something?
Yeah. Who's also in The Revenant. I can't remember his name. But, yeah, redhead.
Yeah.
Make him the bad guy.
What was he in Force Awakens?
He was basically like the Tarkin character. Because, there's kind of like revamped episode 4.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah.
And he's still around. I think he made it till the end I think he lived through the movie.
I see on IMDb that he will be in episode 8.
Well, there you go. He lived. At least they didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for bringing that up again, guys. Thanks for having my back.
Follow us on Twitter at X-Rated Movies. Like us on Facebook.
Rated
X Movies. Because Facebook has weird things about their words.
Yeah, X.
Ugh.
And, talk to us. Rate, review, subscribe. It's on iTunes. I'll get it on other services soon.
I haven't had to make one Hitler comparison yet, and I'm really kind of sad. So, disagree with me.
Yeah, disagree with both of us. Or continue pointing out Hollywood's problem with redheads.
Yeah, we could use some more help there. There's got to be more than Eric Stoltz and John Gleason.
Good try. A for effort there.
Donald Hall Johnson's my adult film star.
Well, bye. Oh wait, what are we gonna watch next week? God!
Wow, we're really out of sync this week.
This is
the fame has gone to our heads. We need a manager.
We're trying a non-linear narrative this time.
So next week, because we're closing in on the holidays, I'm gonna watch a perennial favorite.
Okay.
Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, good. I've never seen it.
Oh, I know. I flirted with wanting to make this the first movie we watched.
Oh, okay.
Just because I felt like it was so important for you to see. It's one of those movies like Phantom of the Paradise that I just assumed that you had already seen it.
No.
So I didn't even think to put it on the list.
I'm excited.
One of the perils of this is sometimes when we think of these challenges, we get too obscure.
That's true.
And we'll sort of miss some, low-hanging fruit that we just haven't gotten around to yet. Mm-hmm. But I'll talk about why I watch this every Christmas in the next episode.
I'm excited.
But yeah, Return of the Living Dead. Can't wait.
I can't wait either.